G'day, guys. Jake here, coach of Dunkley's Donuts. And as always, welcome to Hat Chat. I'm here on episode 163 and doing our round 23 review with two of your favorite Hat Chatters and one very special guest. It is feeling a bit weird, boys. We've got one podcast left after this for the year. So things are flying. And speaking of flying, we really brought on a hot guest tonight. It's not Sanch. I'm going to make that very clear, but we're going to keep him waiting in the wings just a little bit longer while I introduce our good old friends, DC and Nathan. Deece, wasn't a week for the Caterpillars. You're slowly getting a lot closer to Nathan and myself, and that must leave you epically disappointed at this time of year.
Look, I think most of that is true, Jake, although I wouldn't say I'm slowly getting closer to you guys. I am falling at a rapid rate. Less caterpillar, more caterpillar falling out of a tree kind of rate towards the ground, which is Jake and Nathan. Yeah, I need the season to end, guys. I need the season to end. I'm done, and my team is an absolute rabble.
For all the horse racing fans out there, DC is pride of Jenny, but pride of Jenny at the back end of her career when she no longer can sustain that monumental lead that she undoubtedly puts up during the race. But Nathan, you must be devastated that you've been referred to as the ground comparable to me. That is a shocker. But you have had an absolute week and a half, so you must be flying high.
Yeah, I must be the best coach on the pod this week. It would be absolutely fantastic to be, ranked 200th for the round. 2,600, my second highest score ever. Absolutely fantastic. I think I was 400 points behind DC 2 weeks ago, and now I'm only like 8 or so behind him. So it's been a monumental rise.
The ground is coming up quickly. The ground is coming up quickly.
Yeah. So now I'm looking forward to it all fall apart as DC gets just kissed enough to beat me by 1 or 2 points by the end of this. But no, great round for the boys. I'm pretty happy with that. An overall rank of 4,000, which, considering the season I've had, been pretty good. But I do think that there was genuinely coinciding of when I traded out Petrarca that my team has absolutely turned around. And I think if the season could just go 5 or 6 more weeks, I'd be in with a shout for the top 1,000.
There's a clear linear correlation, I would say. But Nathan, you know this good and well, but our listeners don't just yet. We have called upon someone weeks ago to join us on this particular podcast. And this man has delivered and said, Nathan, I'm going to make sure you are the second best coach on the podcast for the week. And it is very good friend of the show, Urban, or as he's titled himself tonight, Urban the Great. How are you, my friend?
Urban the Great.
Alexander's cousin.
I'm very good. To every yin, there's a yang, and where 3 coaches ebb, 1 coach will flow. I have come on with the highest score I've ever scored. So when I said I'd come on 2 weeks ago, I thought I'd be closer to a hat, and I would probably rather be there. But I'm coming in highest score I've ever got. 190 points off a hat. Is it going to happen? I'd need probably a 2,800 next week. But up and about, it's been a good season. A lot of headaches for everyone throughout it, but the experienced old men come rise to the top.
Hey, well, these...
The old man shares the butter.
It's let's run through your score very quickly. We heard about Nathan's 2,600, so there's going to be a bit of a gap, presumably.
Well, yeah, it shows how high scoring a round it was, because I scored a 23.69, which on most weeks would be a pretty good score. But that was only good enough for 18,000 for the round, with a big C in the final game as well. So I've dropped about another, I think, 600 odd spots to 3,957th overall. So now instead of looking at the top 1,000 like it was a few weeks ago, I'm just looking to stay in the top 4,000. Maybe even 5, who knows?
I was about to say, DC, based on your trajectory, I think you need to set your expectations a touch lower, a touch.
I just want to stay in the seeded leagues at this point.
Well, I won't highlight DC.
1,200 next week and gets kicked out of the leagues.
I was about to say a poor week, and maybe for the first time in Hat Chat history, we're going to have to come up with a DC themed rank because I'm hot on your tails, Deece. 2478 this week was 5,000th round rank, not terrible. 5,200th overall. So I need a decent week this week to ensure I don't have my first ever sub 5K finish. I might not have a great finish, but I always have a good finish. So I need to make sure that I can find my way back in there. But Urban, to beat Nathan's lofty 200 round rank, you're going to have come up with something special. It sounds like you have. Just how.
Oh, man, it's been very good. A 2664. Don't adjust your television sets. That is correct. You are hearing it correctly through your eyes. Monster score, 2664. End up with a round rank of 17. I was mowing them down that last game, and I thought I might get a top 10 round rank.
Disappointment in his voice. Oh, I've ended up with a round rank of 17.
I know, 17. And I was 13, and then that late change with Errol knocked me back 4 places. But no, very good round. Leaves me at 252nd overall, about 192 points off a hat. 191 points off a month.
No one's been as disappointed with ending up on 17 since Jason Dunstall missed out on the all-time goal-kicking record in one game when he only kicked 17 goals. He was like, oh, man, only 17. Damn it, Fred Fanning. That's basically Urban right now.
Yeah, that's what winners are made of, right? You never get too happy with what you've got.
Yeah. No, mate. Well, absolutely.
Took off my bingo part of a Fred Fanning reference for the year. Really good. That was coming in.
But Jake, very uncharted waters. This is my best finish easily, unless I shit the bed completely this week. It'll be my best finish.
I was about to say, I am going to ask you a few questions in just a little bit, just to maybe talk about your season a little bit. It is late in the year. We do dwindle for questions, which means we are going to have a bit of a fun pod, hopefully. But something slightly more serious before we get to the fun pod, and including our fun awards. Obviously, we appreciate this will get released kind of on the back of a lot of news today about the Sydney Swans Football Club. I guess what we'll try and do is steer clear from that as much as we can for tonight's episode. Obviously, a lot in the media. We obviously don't have any clarity around anything at the moment, so there's no need really to speculate. We will obviously have a brief discussion around a couple of players who may miss this week, just purely from a fantasy perspective. But outside of that, we'll keep it pretty straight and narrow, and we will talk about a couple of those names now for our awards with some of the performances they did put up during the game. But DC, I'm going to throw to you to start us off there. You already mentioned a late week boom score in that final game, so hopefully one of the boys there did you an absolute solid.
Yeah, I ended up trading in Errol Goulden this week and threw the C on him, which ended up being a very good move. And I think that's been the most frustrating thing about the last few weeks is, I've gone past my Cooper Harvey and my Ezekiel at trade-in stages, and I'm actually making good trades. It's just the rest of my team is just falling apart, and I'm still having to trade out guys like Ezekiel and Cooper Harvey. So I'm not really making up any ground, but yeah, Errol with the C was pretty handy in the final game. It was looking real dire otherwise. It was so dire, in fact, that Nathan was going to be ahead of me. That's how dire it was.
I was waiting for a Jack Dyer reference somehow to the amount of goals he's kicked in a game, but I don't know that even your bag goes that deep, DC.
It was looking as dire as the Australian cricket team against Bangladesh.
Urban, you
and
also...
then Errol Goulden basically... was playing the Cam Green role of steering us home to some sort of respectability.
Yeah, that's I was going to say a disappointing weekend of cricket for all those cricket fans out there. But Urban, you also had a player in that game who was my captain from memory, so we both got to enjoy a performance, mostly a second half performance.
Nice. Yes, when you're looking across scores like I had, it's hard to find the best one, but it's Heaney for me. It's probably one of the lower owned players in the top 1%, I guess, up there at the top of the tree. So it's good to see him put a score on every time he's kicking a goal, and I knew I was making a little bit of ground. And he's been a bit down last month, you'd say. So it's good to see him bounce back and run out all 4 quarters. So it's good to see.
Yeah, I was very worried with the C kind of half time, probably more so middle of that second quarter, but massive third quarter put us into some really good areas. My award, I think for maybe this third week in a row, if not at least quite a few times in the last month, goes to Isaac Rankin. Absolute incredible final month of football. I wonder what would have happened if he didn't get injured this year. He could absolutely have pushed his way up there for pick of the season voting, DC. But yeah, 164 on the weekend. Incredible start to the round for those that do own him. But Nathan, you've decided that your trade-ins combined have taken the mickey proverbially out of all of our scores and all of our Baz Nasses for the week.
Yeah, brought in Errol and Max Hall this week, which when combined with the Bradley Hill 145 was bit with the BC, was a very enjoyable round of fantasy where I realized that the errors that I'd been making for the previous 23 rounds about, trading in other players. But I found if you just trade in the ones you think are going to score over 150, it's a really good round. So 308 points from those is just I started to enjoy fantasy, and it was almost like I've just played the worst 18 rounds of golf in my entire life. I'd shot about 200, had 19 bogeys, but on the final hole, had a really clean shot off it. And I was like, maybe I will play it again. Maybe I will do fantasy again next year. This is actually really fun when you're doing well. So wasn't quite enough to get me over the line against DC overall, because he was kissed with the Errol captain and got those extra points that I didn't get with my Brad Hill VC. I knew I should have taken it on, but didn't. And we'll have to live with that for the rest of the year.
That's the first time I've heard the golf analogy for AFL fantasy, but I think that is quite apt, isn't it? There's so many things that go wrong.
Nathan said when he got to the
18 rounds.
Yeah, and 18 rounds. Have you ever played golf, Nathan?
Yes, badly, really badly.
I think maybe it was just making sure his analogy really hit home for those playing along at home. But obviously, for our second last time of the year, we do have some Melican awards as well. DC, I'm confused how this man is getting your award, unless I've missed something. Can't wait to hear this.
Giving it to Mateus Philippou, basically for fooling me again. I also made the comment during the week that I don't have Brad Hill, but I do have Mateus Philippou, who has Hill in his name. And I would think with double the amount of letters that Hill has, he should be twice as good as Hill. But in actual
do you know what else is in his name? Poo.
About a third as good as Hill. So maybe the poo outweighs the Hill. And
just a hill of shit. Just a monumental hill of shit.
It's like that scene out of Jurassic Park. But I mean, I traded him in at round 21 on the back of an 84, a 117, a 99, a 94. And since then, he has scored 52, 47, and 46. One of the trades of the season.
I'd like that you said that you moved past Zeke Hewland and Cooper Harvey to Mateus Philippou. So good news.
To be fair, he was on my bench. I'm just so pissed at him that I'm giving it to him anyway, even though he didn't contribute to my score.
Oh, gosh. All right, Urban, after a 17-round rank, you can't really have someone to give this award to, surely?
There was a couple. If you're getting outscored by my R3, Mitch Edwards, who had a cracking of a game, then you deserve it. Sheez 51, can't give it to him. And only 2 players went under 97. That's how good my team went. Only 2 players went under 97. You're hearing that correct?
I had about 2 over.
Yeah. It's Jordan De Goey. He had a cracking first half. I think he was tracking really well. Just a quiet second half. So if I have to give it somewhere, it's going to be to him.
Love your work. We're going to stick in the forward line. Looks like a bit of a theme here, boys. I'm going to give mine to Tom Sparrow, which seems outrageous given the season he's had. But in case we talked about it last week, you might have missed. I was going to bring him in round 4. Haven't really been able to do so ever since. And this week I went, do I get Tom Sparrow, who has 2 games where Melbourne will need to win to finish in the top 4 and not play in the wild card? Or do I go Max Hall, who may only have 1 game that is important? So I decided on Tom Sparrow, who proceeded to have his worst score since, I think, round 5. And Max Hall decided to score 161 points, which, if I made the alternative decision, there'd be 20 points between me, DC, and Nathan going into the final round, which would have made for some entertaining viewing. But I rightfully took my place as worst coach of the podcast. So thank me later. Boys, Nathan, have you got a forward to round us off?
Yeah, it was just Myers for me. I'd love to give it to Petrarca, but I've forgotten that he exists, so he can't get that anymore. But up against North and on such a high-scoring game and so many goals kicked, just to see him, he was He wasn't even getting burnt. I was at that game just watching him ask for that lead up pass that was about 9 meters, and it just looked a little bit lost on the field. So, sort of be the ideal person you trade out, but unfortunately, due to all the outs we're going to have next week, he might actually be one of my only 20 green dots. So, he will make the end of season trip.
Could be a bit of fun with Grind on board, I would have thought. But before we get into some strategy and structure and our potentially final questions, or at least final relevant questions for the year, hopefully we'll get some fun ones next week. Urban, I'm going to pick your brain for a couple of minutes here, just because obviously a fantastic year and still in the hat hunt. I think any further away, we'd probably write you off. But I think after the week you've had, there is a chance. I know friend of the show, Nick, went from 260th last week, and he has also found his way well into cat contention in the 60s, I think. So a couple of monsters.
Liam,
I mean,
110th, the very famous number.
I've scored over 2,600 once in 23 years, and you want me to go again next week?
It's called the team in form, mate. I'm happy to back you in here. But yes, a couple of friends of the show hitting their straps at the right time of year, and I think you are just in hat contention. So look, really simply, mate, no pressure here. Think back for the last 23 weeks and ponder every decision you made over that time. What would you say you've done differently compared to previous years? Is there anything, or are you going to attest to how much luck plays a part in this game?
I would say what I've done different this year, because it was chaos, right? A lot of forced trades. I copped them as well. I think 15 rounds I had a forced trade. 3 of those rounds was 2 players had to get traded out. So I've copped it as well. But and stuff, wouldn't say I've swung for the fences, but I definitely haven't played straight back. I've gone a little bit to the left, I guess, or to the right, getting in Washcroft a bit early. Bringing back Jagger. I brought back Jagger Smith, and that was looking like a crap idea, and then it went real good. Just bringing back
that
rookies.
shows you the fine lines,
do
doesn't it? Trading back into a rookie, you traded in Jagger, I traded in Zeke Uland. Look, it's basically the same trade. It's just you were kissed.
Yeah. I'd say so. I mean, Jagger's not really a rookie. He's been in the system for a year, and I see him a bit different, and the role's very good. And I made a great argument. You guys were probably sick of hearing it at the time. What else did I do differently? Maybe not going for the top of the line too early, having that money there to spread through and have, especially in the last 4 or 5 weeks, that 23rd player, I guess, floating through the forward line, because we couldn't really rely on that. It's helped me out a little bit. And I've been kissed in a few rounds, so I'm not going to deny that. What was it, Marshall? Marshall laid out, got me an extra 140 points on field. Because I benched Sarong and played some rookie on field. I can't remember the name, but that Marshall out was a big up for me and moved me back up like 200-300 spots. So you've got to get kissed at some point, but you've still got to have a bit of, I wouldn't say skill, but strategy, and stick to it. Even when everything's going to shit, I think you just sort of got to retweak your plan and go with it. Mine's worked. Everyone sort of did the same, but mine's just sort of come together. I'm talking like I've won the car. I'm only 250 seconds. Oh, Jesus Christ. So I don't know. That's what I guess I've done differently from previous years. It's just not gone with the same game plan. Because if it hasn't worked for 23 years, I should probably do something different.
It's like the only time I'm going to be ranked that high and invited on the pod. I'm going to talk for the entirety of it. I'm just going to get my points per minute is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be.
DC, see how easy that was to admit? He said I was kissed. And DC, if you'd simply said that 4 or 5 years ago, maybe we would have been easier on it this year.
I think, there's obviously some luck there, but even the fact that you had enough depth in your team to be able to bench Sarong in the first place, like people will say, "Oh, it's Kiss," well, you've covered Marshall with Sarong, but how many people had their team in a position to be able to bench Sarong? Like that's really where I think you should give yourself a bit of credit to be able to develop your team to the point where you have that much depth and you can do those kind of moves. Where, like for me, I had Cooper Harvey covering him, and he scored like a 13 or something. So, very different kind of levels.
Well, I think
you're still kissed with Jagger over Zeke Uland.
Yeah, I think with the time on ground rule, I made a decision halfway through the season that it's going to be pivotal now to have someone of substance anyway in every single line on the bench. So it's helped me out in a few bits
of substance.
Yeah, but it's helped me out a little bit. But really, it's just
I think it's a good
my experience and not will to die.
I think it's a great shout out though, and I think I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's definitely taken me longer this year to adapt to that rule change, particularly from a captaincy perspective, because like I said in my head, I go and this week's a great example. I get a 110, and I've always been if you get a 110, you take it, but that's because in historical worlds, even a Sheez 51 from an injury, you would suddenly have to cop the 51 and there was 60 points of downside. But realistically, a premium this year that hits the time on ground threshold, it is almost like it needs to be a particularly shocking game, maybe like a Bont 2 or 3 weeks ago, but there'd be only a handful of games where it was so bad that you could lose 50 or 60 points. It's more likely now that they'll get tagged to an 80 or 90 than had an absolute like drop dead 20, 30 injured score.
Or you have Mateus Philippou covering that player, and he still scores less than the player who gets injured.
We're meant to be relatable. All of our listeners are like Cooper Harvey, Zeke Hewlin,
Mateus Philippou. I remember him from about round 5.
I'll be relatable. And I had Lombard covering him, and he scored 30 points lower than he'd scored in the 10 weeks around that, with only a 35. If he'd scored any of those, I would be the best coach in the podcast that isn't Urban.
Urban, is there any one pick? Obviously, you talked about bringing Jagger back in. I'm a proud Jagger owner. I think he might be my only player who's been in my side for all 24 weeks now. I have to trade Sheezel out, but we'll see how that pans out. Is there any particular trade you've made or a particular left field captain choice that you think, obviously, a season isn't built in a week, but something in particular that has really just made the world of a difference?
Ooh. I don't really know. Probably just timing. I think it's just timing of bringing players in. And I've had Bolton all year as well. Like, picked him up at a good time, and he's been disappointing, but being able to rotate again. I wouldn't be able to single out one player that I've had. Maybe Ashcroft, getting on him a bit early. He did really well. But I haven't really had a pod that has been by himself just smashing it, I guess. It's just
that's interesting with the Shea Bolton one though, that you've held someone like that. Do you think sort of being patient with those guys that do have sort of big swings in their scoring, is that something you've done sort of across the board this year, or it's just worked out with him?
Just in the forward line, I'd say. I wouldn't accept it in any other line, but the forward line was just terrible. So it's like a picket. You take a picket, but you're going to hit your 60s and you just hope to catch the ones that pop. And Bolton can pop. Probably not as much as I wanted in the back half of the season. When I brought him in, he was going 120, 130. But that was the forward line. We just needed to get a 7th in as quick as we can on the bench and roll them through. So forward line, you probably get away with it. If it was any other line, he would have been traded.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, though. Like, we probably sometimes don't discuss that enough about finding that guy who is underpriced but can get close enough to the top of the line and over a period of time. So even someone like a Shea Bolton, what's the average of the year? Like mid-80s, maybe? It's still within 5 to 8 points maybe of the top 6 forwards. But you would have got him at a heavily discounted price, whereas you trade in someone like that in the midfield and it's just going to burn you because on any given week you might be giving up 50 points to some of the other top 8 guys. But so I think, sometimes taking more risk, particularly in the forward line, but sometimes in those kind of D5, D6 spots is actually a pretty good strategy.
Yeah,
that's why I traded in Cooper Harvey and Zeke Hewlin.
It was a real. I was going to say, where's this coming from? The last question I've got for you, I kind of looking through your team over the last couple of months, it feels like there's been like a good amount of looping. Like I would say, not a lot of teams maybe have looped as much as you have. Would you say that's worked really well for you? Because it seems to have made a bit of a difference. And is it just because your team was in a really good position that you could do that, or is that something you've been able to do or have kind of prioritized over the course of the year?
Yeah, I definitely wanted that extra sort of player in each line. I didn't have like a premium 24th and 25th, but as I said, I spent a bit less early on maybe and had players I could loop with. I've definitely looped, as you said, more this year. It's there, use it, and it's worked this year. Other previous years, it hasn't worked. Ironically, I had to take Sheez's score this week. I've had a F7 for the last 7-8 weeks. they could have played, and I got a bit cute with it this week and ended up having to take Sheez. For the long week, I didn't do it. I had a tog go out. So, no,
You could have had Myers there and got an extra 8 points.
I could have had McCurchin there. I've missed out on 24, but yeah, it's. I think the looping's part of it. Looping's part of it, and it'll be a big thing next year, even more so, because I think we'll have a bye player every round, so we'll be able to loop right until the last game. So that'll be a big factor next year, and you'll probably want to get have that bench real solid.
Yeah, well, interesting to see how that one pans out over the next couple. Tassie entering the comp and whatnot. But all right, thank you, Irvin. You'll be here for the show, so I'm sure you'll answer plenty more of our listener questions as we lead into round 24. But I guess a bit of strategy and structure, semi-led by D. Waters' question, I should say. How much carnage do you expect next
not
week?
Doug Walters.
No, not quite.
How much swashbuckling former batsman Doug Walters?
There's a lot of.
You can tell this has really given up on fantasy, haven't you? That is just at the point where he's like,
I'm just thinking about cricket.
Started. I don't care if we lost to Bangladesh. I didn't have to look at my fantasy team.
I watched all 5 days because it wasn't football. It was great. It only went before. And I
watching the blank KO screen on day 5. It was just sitting there going, "Well, this will be fun."
I
rewatched day 1 again.
Lost the audience more so than normal, but that is okay. So T. Waters' question said, "How much carnage do you expect next week with players resting?" Obviously, I kind of covered off that we won't cover the Sydney news awfully much, but I guess the latest that we've just heard is obviously there were a few names that obviously were involved in the conversations today, interviews and such, but more specifically, there's been notes around them likely to miss this week purely for breaking curfew, drinking alcohol on a 6-day break. So that obviously includes a couple of names we've already talked about: Isaac Heaney, Chad Warner, I think Nick Blakey, James Jordan, Riley Bice, the other names mentioned. Obviously, again, we've got nothing that we can add, and we're not keen to add anything on it. But I suppose from our perspective, there are a couple of fantasy relevant names that you should plan to potentially not have in your side this week. More broadly than that, DC, I guess Sydney as a whole obviously secured their spot in second. Freo similarly in first, and then a bunch of teams, 8 of them, in fact, who, of course, are officially ruled out of finals. So what's our thoughts? And I guess from a fantasy relevant sense, are there particular players that you are very wary of? Although noting with the Sheez injury, we might be a bit hamstrung here anyway at the best of times.
Yeah, that's obviously going to take up one of our trades. The big watch, I think, will be Fremantle because they are travelling to Melbourne. So do they give players an extra week of recovery at home, given the fact they can't move from top now? They're also playing Carlton, who are now locked in to the top 10. So there might be a bit of shift there. Carlton probably unlikely to move out of that spot, I think.
No,
no, they've got Melbourne, so they could move.
Carlton, yeah. Big one for Carlton, because if they win, the likelihood is they will finish 8th or 9th in all likelihood, which means they'll avoid an interstate trip because the Pies or Dogs will take the other spot. So it is a big game for Carlton in theory.
Yeah, so I think it probably is going to mainly be Freo and potentially the Swans, but the Swans' hands might be forced by obviously other means. So, but otherwise, Brisbane, Hawks, Melbourne, Cats, and Adelaide are all within a game of each other. So there's a fair bit to play for there in terms of top 4 spots. So I don't think we'll see too much there. And then you're probably looking at, that bottom 8 group of, is there anyone in the bottom 8 there that they're going to send off for surgery now that the season is pretty much done? But I think we actually would have seen that for quite a few of those teams already if it was going to happen. So I would imagine they will play through, and given they're going to have a longer off season than the top 10 sides anyway. So Freo and Sydney are probably the watchers. So that means probably obviously a Luke Jackson, maybe someone like a Shai Bolton, maybe. They'd be the kind of guys to be worried about. But I don't think it's going to be too many.
I think a question for you, Urban, specifically here, something I always worry about, right, particularly with the wild card round now. In theory, Dockers are flying. You're going to hope that they go and win their qualifying final. If they rest players this week, players will play 1 game in a month before a prelim. If they were to win the qualifying final, they rest this week. They have the bye on the wild card round. They'd play the qualifying. Hopefully they win, and then they have the bye in the semi-finals. That's 1 game in a month. Do Do you think if you were the coach, and obviously you're a high performing coach right now, you might be the next look in for Fremantle, although the way that they're flying, I'm imagining no changes in the coach's box for now. Would you be resting players for a game like this, or is it more about in-game management and maybe the positional factor rather than actual rest completely?
Well, I've never played at the highest level, so I don't know how you'd bounce back after one game in a month. That sounds pretty good to me, actually. Look, I think we'll see a couple of players rested this week. I won't fly over. I'm actually concerned there could be absolute carnage this week, and rookies will be back on field for some teams. I think Collingwood can't move on out of the wildcard section, so they're guaranteed they have to play next week. Are they going to rest some players? Big concerns about Dacos. But I say Luke Jackson is high on the list. I'd say maybe a Brayshaw. Sarong had a week off a couple of weeks ago. Bolton just got managed 2 or 3 weeks ago. Reed's not going to be back, so I'm not too worried about Bolton and that as such. But Luke Jackson is got not going written all over it. But Darcy's injured; he can't come in, so I don't know what ruck they're going to play. Just Big Mason Cox for the whole game. Sandilands, someone. So I think we're looking at.
Justin
Brayshaw.
Montague is just going to play to be a player coach.
Yeah, I think we're looking at Brayshaw, Luke Jackson, probably maybe a Clark, one of the guys, a couple of guys up front. Maybe give them a rest because they've had a big season. So if you're a Sarong owner, I think you're all right, and if you're Bolton owner, you're definitely all right. Any of my players, you're all right.
Good stuff. Nate, I think from my perspective, Bont obviously missed last week. News is he probably misses this week. I actually held last week because I had 3 other forced trades. So I have 2 forced trades already this week. So kind of anything else that happens is going to be a nightmare for me. Do you think there's anyone else I've missed or anyone else from, I guess, particularly highly owned guys that are going to hurt a few coaches?
No, I think it's more just a case. I'm surprised this pod's gone for longer than 4.5 minutes, to be honest. This round is going to be see what happens at teams on Thursday. Do you have more than 5 players left in your team? Great, play them. Trade out the 2 highest priced and see what you can do and bring in a couple of other players because, yeah, I think it's going to be quite a bit of carnage for teams, and those that I guess have been focusing on having some sort of a bench are actually going to get rewarded. I actually don't mind it to see at the end of this. Those good coaches that actually have, that 23rd premium, even if it's not Brad Hill. Those coaches like me that fielded 2 rookies last week and still scored a 2,600 might be less kissed this week. Not saying that I was last week, but might be less kissed. And I think it's just going to be a case of let's just have a crack with what you can get to and don't stress too much this week. And I think, honestly, probably pretty good for those in the top 100, 200, because anything can happen this week. Like Urban, I reckon you're absolutely not out of it because there are going to be a few teams that actually, I think, in the top 200 that might have a donut this week if the carnage goes to the extreme.
Yeah.
About 150
it's a great
of them.
call out. I think, Heaney, Bont, and Sheez pretty well for me are almost all certainly not playing based on current news anyway. And I've been running with McKercher as my 23rd, but he has played for 6 consecutive weeks. So there's almost every chance and almost certainty that he's going to play for 7 consecutive weeks. Wade Dirksen looks like he might be getting a game as well at this point. So it's going to be a bit of a fun one. I guess something we half talked about is, if Harry Sheezel is one of your only 2, who are you replacing him with, boys? Now, DC, in my case, if I've got 3 trades to make, if I trade Sheezel, I'm going to have 200K left over. So for the sake of my end of year results, and we obviously review our teams, I think I'm going to hold Sheezel on the basis that he'll be one of 2 players who've been in my side for the 24 rounds, assuming that I can do the trades I want to do and trade out the other 2 guys, just out of solidarity with what an absolute jet he is. But if you're not in that bad of a situation and you can trade him, what's the obvious thoughts? We're looking for 1-round wonders here. It's only one matchup we have to look into.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's pretty simple. I don't have Hall or Hill, which probably explains why I did quite badly this week. So one of those 2 will come into my side. Unfortunately, they are playing the Thursday game, but at Marvel against the Suns. You would imagine that should be a pretty good matchup. Outside of that, I mean, we've seen some of the scores that teams have put up against Richmond. The Cats have got them this week. I mean, you can maybe look at something a bit fruity there if you need cash for the other trade. But I'm not sure I'd be backing in too many of the Cats forwards, to be honest. And then Port have got Essendon. So I think there's no one I think that jumps off the top of my head. Maybe unless you had a Horn, unless you don't have a Horn Francis.
Jeff, but
yeah, that's probably about it. So any guys that jump out for you?
I don't have Horn Francis, and I think similar to your point, Jake, I don't think I can actually bring him into my team because then I'll have to look at it for the remainder of the season. So I think I'm actively going to. I have to make a judgment. Do I want to be best coach in the pod and demonstrably JHF against Essendon? Probably a better pick. But doing it for the memes, and I'm already only ranked 4,000. Do I want to bring in JHF?
It would be iconic if you brought in JHF and then DC beat you by 1 point, and whoever your alternative was, you would have beaten him. I think there would be some irony that I would thoroughly enjoy. But Urban,
all right, I'll bring in Petrarca again.
Matt's question for you, Urban, is that he's traded out Petrarca and his whole team has lifted. So there you go, Nathan. One more person to validate your hypotheses. And he's averaging 24.40 since he traded him out and has halved his rank. Sheez with a Hall is locked in, but his other trade is going to be to Sparrow, Warner, Marshall, or Bailey. He said, love your work, Phalanges. Look forward to next year. Obviously, Warner probably in doubt for this week based on current reports. So based on the other three, Sparrow, Marshall, Bailey, are you happy with any or all of them?
I'm liking Bailey of late. What's Brisbane got to play for this week? Probably everything. I've liked Bailey. I'd probably go there. Top three. Well, there you go. I don't mind Bailey in that. Marshall, maybe. What was the other option? What's his name? Sparrow. No, he looked tired last week. I didn't like it. That second half was very, very poor. I'd just go on current form, and I'd probably go a Bailey.
Yeah, I think the thing I like about Zach Bailey, they're playing the second game, so they can lock in third before anything else. Whereas potentially, I don't know, you could look at maybe the Hawthorn game as an example. They're the last game of the round. If Melbourne lose, they already know by that point that they've locked in top four. So at least Brisbane have everything to play for within their own hands. So
I don't think it won't lock them in though, because the percentage is actually pretty close between Brisbane and Hawthorn. It's only about 2 percentage points. So if Brisbane narrowly win and then Hawthorn win massively, that might shift and they could move to third. Because I would imagine, particularly now with this news, that teams will probably want to play against Sydney in a qualifying final instead of having to travel to Fremantle. So I would say Brisbane, Hawthorn, Melbourne, even the Cats and Adelaide have all got a lot to play for.
It's just unfortunate we haven't got anyone closer in the Coleman race. Like this has got, if Jeremy Cameron was 4 goals behind Charlie Curno's playing Richmond, this would be, who are playing Richmond, Essendon? It would be a prime, like last round, just feed the forward and he'll kick 10 goals, 12 goals. We can't even bank on that, sorry.
You don't even think your boy Jai is going to come out and kick 10 just for a bit of funsies?
Yeah, I don't think so, because Charlie's not going to kick -1.
It's a good point. Obviously, we'll see what happens in that space. Chris has said, will Bont be back this week, or do you trade regardless?
Quick question. What's the number of total goals of the leader of the Coleman at the moment?
66.
I mean, it'd be tough for Charlie Coleman to kick 65, but I reckon he might give it a shot.
Apologies.
Fred Fanning would get obliterated out of the water. This will be the first and only time Fred Fanning's been mentioned twice in one podcast.
Just you wait till Jake's trivia, DC. You won't even believe what's about to come out there. No,
where
Chris said,
was Fred Fanning born?
Week, or do you trade regardless? I think the news is that he is going to be rested. I don't know if that's official, but that is certainly the news I'm hearing. Achilles soreness, and they're going to obviously want him through their finals campaign. So Obviously, if he's named, you keep him, I think, with all the other carnage, but prepare your trades as if he won't be there. 2 more questions, though, boys. Jocko has said thoughts on Archie Roberts, Nathan. Obviously playing Port this week, and he has limited money. Also, much like Matt, going Sheez to Max Hall. Are you happy with the idea of Archie Roberts, though?
I think so. I think around that price, it's probably as good as you're going to get. And if you're looking for a ceiling score just to end out your season well, he's one that up against Port could go that 120, 130, particularly if Essendon just decide, you know what, let's just chippy it around a little bit. I'm not expecting that to be a super hard-nosed, well-fought game. So I reckon there could be some absolute monster scores there, which is why I'm a little actually worried for the inside midfielders. If the game just spreads out entirely, where does the scoring go when it's bruise-free footy?
Empty.
It's incredible that is Archie Roberts' first ton since round 11 this week. So we think about how
remember those days, boys?
Season.
Remember those days?
Everyone was trying to get him in, and my team was going well.
I never owned him.
1 ton since round 11.
It's another thing. I never owned Archie Roberts. That would have been a game, set, and match for a hat, I think, if I did.
Yeah, wow.
Or Rochelle. I don't have Rochelle.
Just shout out to anyone in the Pepsi Collective from the other round. Stay tuned for 2027 edition. All right, last question is from Zach, and he said DC with 6 praying hands emojis. Not sure why DC is the god you're praying to, Zach, but alas, we will send your message directly to the man himself. He is 144 points off 100th spot, so in similar ranks to Urban the Great. And while it's extremely unlikely, do you have a nice little pod that you think could pop a big ceiling this week? Zach, I should have read your question before I addressed this to DC. We've just talked about the fact he's brought in Mateus Philippou, Zeke Hewland, and Cooper Harvey, and you're asking him for a nice little pod. But anyway, he's done so, DC, so he will get what he hath requested. He has also mentioned he doesn't have JHF. Does he have to fade and pray against? So 2 questions. I guess if the straight bat is pick JHF, maybe you should be doing that, but let's see what you can come up with.
Oh, it's a tough one. I mean, I'd probably, you just play the matchups, don't you? So maybe that is where you go someone like one of the Cats boys, like maybe a Shaw Manor. We've seen him pull a ridiculous game multiple times this year. Ollie Dempsey, similar. They've obviously got Richmond at home. You would expect that's going to be a pretty one-sided matchup. So I'd be probably looking at someone like that. Alternatively, I mean, the Eagles are obviously done. They're playing the Hawks to end the season. Could someone like Jack Gunston kick a bag? We obviously love, at this time of the year, jumping on key forwards just for one matchup for the final round. So maybe someone like that could pop a big one.
Mitch Georgiades against the Bombers, maybe. Essendon, certainly a easier matchup. Although I think he only scored 80 against them earlier in the year. Urban, have you got any left of field? You know, you're sitting there at a similar rank. Are you considering anyone super quirky, or are you going straight bat for this final round?
I don't mind Burgoyne for the last round. Port Adelaide versus Essendon. He's been playing pretty well. Lawson Humphries, maybe. He likes to pop a big score now and again. Coming off the back line for Geelong. Carl Warner, get on him. He popped a big score not long ago. And if we see some of the Dockers get rested, you might see someone taking over some of that halfback duties. You could have a look at that. I wrote this Burgoyne. I think that's the one. I think he might do all right.
Currently also my trade-in, funnily enough. So I'll back you in on that one, Herbs. But boys, before we get to our round 23 episode of Jake's Trivia, so you guys get 1 minute to lock in, I'm going to, of course, thank our partners for this year. And, of course, by now you should know they are our friends at Peak Solutions and Game Day Squad. Of course, the guys at Peak Solutions, still busy, still keeping you guys and your businesses hot to trot. Whether or not you're ranked 1,000th, 5,000th, or 100,000th, you can still take advantage of their fantastic work to support you getting new clients, or support the work you're already doing to become more profitable. So make sure you reach out to them, or as we've talked about the last couple of weeks, AFL Women's has started. There is AFLW on Game Day Squad, amongst a whole bunch of other sports. If anyone is like me, you're doing your NBA drafts, your NFL drafts, they're all starting to get booked in this time of year. And of course, you can run a Game Day Squad parallel to them as well, just to keep the fun going all year round. So make sure you jump in. Again, it's been a fantastic support to have those two partnering with us in 2026. We couldn't thank them enough. We wouldn't be able to keep this a free show for you all without support like that. So if the least you can do is give them a like on the socials, please do that. But obviously, please reach out to them and use their absolutely wonderful platforms as well to help you out. Now, boys, I've given you no preparation for this week's Jake's Trivia. I can see Urban's pouring himself a drink. He's trying to lock in. He doesn't just want to be the best coach on the podcast. He also wants to be the best trivia coach on the podcast. I know that Nathan will take that title seriously, so I'm hoping that's going to ramp him up here as well. But what I have got prepared for you was that last week we looked at the players who, of course, were averaging over 95 over the course of the year. We did a bit of a synopsis of who might have put you in a hat race. And this week, I thought I'd pivot slightly. And what I thought I'd do is a club by club best and fairest. But because we did the whole season average last week, I thought I would do it by best games. So what we're doing tonight is we have 18 clubs, of course. Now I need you boys to tell me which player has the single highest fantasy score for their club this year. And that is, of course, in honor of an absolute couple of monsters we saw this weekend just gone by. This would have been a perfect segue after listening to the Archie Roberts conversation, because obviously we talked about his monsters going into absolute nowhere at this point of the year. So, Urban, I'm going to get you to start us off. What I'm going to do here is, obviously there's 18 correct answers. You boys, probably handy to have a pen and paper so you can remember which teams have been guessed. But you can only guess each team once. Obviously, you don't have to have a pen and paper. You can use Notes app, whatever works. But you can only guess each team once. Obviously, once that correct answer is given, there's no point anyone else guessing it, but you're locked out of that team as well. And you can obviously have a pot, as always, at the score that they scored for a bonus point. So I only need the player to get the answer right. But if you can tell me the exact score that they scored, you get a bonus point as well. I even have a tiebreaker for you fellas if need be. But yes, we're going to go in reverse rank order. So, in rank order, which means Urban, you're going to kick us off.
Not me first. I didn't listen to any of those instructions. I was just hoping the topic would be fashion trends of the 1600s, but it's not.
So I'll clarify once more succinctly. 18 teams. I need the highest score, one score by a player
Jake.
this year.
Yeah, go on. Do I go now?
Yeah, go. Let's
Petticoat. No. We'll go Nas 182.
Nas 182. Bang on the money to start us off. The highest score of the year as well. St Kilda. Done and dusted. 2 points for Urban. DC, you're still sitting in second, so you get to sneak in second place for one more week.
I'll have a crack at just trying to do this in order. We'll see how we go. I think Rankin still has a higher score than Dawson, so I'll go him. And I reckon, did he get a 168?
164 this week, DC. But yes, he did get the highest score. Yeah. Yes, he did get the highest score, so you still get the 1 point. Nathan, over to you.
Look, I'm normally pretty confident in my trivia skills. I've written down 14 teams. I'm struggling to think about what 4 teams I've missed. So that's been where the majority of my focus has gone. So I'll I don't know which one would pain you more, Jake. Gold Coast, Matt Rowell, 181.
No. Well, yes, it is Matt Rowell, but he actually equaled Naz's 182. He has the equal highest score of the year, which is devastating. Yes, that does pain me. Thank you for that, Nathan. But yeah, well done to Matt Rowell owners out there. Absolute monster. Back to you, Urban.
One of them was St Kilda. I remembered it. St Kilda exists. There we go.
Oh, mate. I'll go with my Freo. I'm going to go Luke Jackson. Was it 163?
It is Luke Jackson. It was a 166, actually, but not too far off.
Not
Still
bad.
get the point, and you maintain a 2-point lead, DC.
I think was the high score for a few weeks. Harry Sheez. I'm going to go 171.
Hunting in the right areas, but you're just missing again. It's 173 for Harry Sheez, but yes, was the highest score for a little while. Taking away Nathan's gimme, I would have thought, making him pivot here.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't listening just because I just assumed I'd get to Sheezel because DC was like, well, I'll do it in order, and then clearly gave up after one. This is just there like Adelaide, AA North Melbourne. Perfect.
I could think of even less teams than you could. You got 13. I got 3.
Did someone do Essendon already?
No.
Oh.
Well, it's a tough matchup between Jai Caldwell, but I might go Archie Roberts, 164.
That's 2 points for Nathan. Absolutely bang on the nose. Well played, mate. 164, Archie Roberts. All right, Urban, moving
I don't get an extra
you.
point for guessing the club.
you do not.
My turn. I'm going to go to the Canberra Giants, and we'll go Lockie Ash, 148.
It is Lockie Ash, but it's actually the second lowest score on this list with a 137 this year.
Ooh.
So highest all year, a 137.
I was thinking of his Supercoach score. Damn it.
Yeah. He was a 130 this week. I don't know if it was a 137.
Yeah, it might have been a couple lower. But...
136 this week. So their second highest score for the year. But nonetheless, a point for Herbs. Well done, mate. No incorrect answers yet. No pressure, DC.
Yeah, it's starting to get a bit tougher, though. I mean, I'm pretty confident that Baz Smith will have the highest score for Geelong. And I know he's gone over 150 this year. I don't know whether he's got a 160. So I'll go 154 for Bailey Smith.
DC is constantly a kick away in these things. 157 for Baz. Top
that
score.
was going to be the other number. It was like 157, 154. Done it twice.
Oh well, good luck. I'd say third time's a charm.
I mean, that's basically just within the margin of error of champion data. Like, is it a kick or not a kick? So really, probably should get the 2 points.
Yeah, well, this is true. All right, Nathan. I would say there's probably 3 more gimmies on this list, and then it starts to get a little harder. See if you can nail one of those.
Collingwood, Dacos, 155.
Clarification?
That is your first.
Which Dacos?
Nope. Don't need the clarification. That's your first strike on the board. This one surprised me, but I'll leave that out. Urban, back to you.
Okay, I'm going to go with the Eagles. I'm going to go Bailey Williams. I want to say 160. I can't do that high. Let's go 160.
Yeah, I mean, you were wrong that it was that high, but you were right that it was Bailey Williams. I thought that was one of the tougher ones on the list, but a 141 for Bailey Williams, my boy.
Yeah.
He's top of the list. Just you wait till you find out I own all of these players and still I'm ranked 5,000. DC, over to you.
That Collingwood one has thrown me. Might have to come back to that.
Just my only recommendation would be I'd leave it, but I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah. Let's go Sydney. I think Isaac Heaney. And 166.
He can't keep doing it to himself. 163 for Isaac Heaney. One on DC. Very
Within a
close.
kick
One
again.
more kick again. Brilliant stuff. Margin of error. Champion data, margin of error. Nathan, you got a couple of points to make up now.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Did zone out a little. But let's go alphabetically. Lions. Oh, no, didn't think that through. Surely a random Lockie Neal appeared. Lockie Neal. 150.
What score?
Needs 150, yep. 159, but correct. Lockie Neal, top scorer for the Lions this year, which was a nice little throwback for him. All right, Urban, I think we're running with 7 to go.
Yeah, I'm going to go Collingwood. Back to Anzac Day. It was a Pendlebury. 144.
It was not 144, but it was Scott Pendlebury, the highest single score for the highest games record holder, broken 10 times this year by Scott Pendlebury over himself. Epic work, Herbs. Love your work. And that's why you're the top ranked coach on the pod. DC?
There you go.
It's kind of crazy that Nick Dacos hasn't hit a 150 this year, given his average 119.
Crazy.
Let's go the Dogs. There is a few options here, but I'm going to say probably Bont. So I'll go Bont. I don't know whether he's quite hit a 150. 148 for the Bont.
A 143 for Marcus Bontempelli. Probably one of his lowest ceilings over a number of years. Not quite as close as the others, DC, so you don't get the same response. All right, Nathan, I'll help you out with one thing. We've got Carlton, Hawthorn, Melbourne, Port, and the Tigers. I don't know if you missed any of those teams. They all play in the AFL. So you can take your pick.
Did miss Port, and I think that one's fair. I think that's fair that I missed that one. Can you list those teams again, please?
Carlton,
University,
Hawthorn,
Tasmania, Fitzroy,
Port, and Richmond.
Port and Richmond. Definitely
also forgettable, at least this year.
Yeah. Is Carlton really random?
I would say it's one of the harder ones to get, but not really random.
George Hewitt, Carlton 154.
Well, it is George Hewitt, not quite as high. Third lowest score on the list, 138.
Nice.
But nice pill of George Hewitt there. Probably wouldn't have been on my list if I was doing the quiz. All right, 4 teams
I only
to go.
prepared the first 3 alphabetically and then stopped.
Melbourne. Oh, I'll just go. It's too obvious. I don't feel like it's the obvious answer. I'll just go Melbourne. Gone. Wouldn't be that high though. I think 139.
First strike for Urban. Not Max Gawn.
No.
DC, you want to have a crack?
I didn't think it was either.
I've got an idea of who Melbourne might be, but I might have a go at Hawthorn. Is it Jarman Impey? I'll go 141.
Jarman Impey's 147 is their highest score. And fun fact, no other Hawks player has scored a 130 this year. None whatsoever. Jarman Impey's had 2, and the rest of their team has had a big fat 0. DC, that ties you up with Urban with 3 teams to go. Nathan, you're going to need 1 point here to tie the group.
Richmond, Taranto, 140.
Richmond Taranto is correct. 133, which leaves us 2 players, and Urban is locked out of Melbourne. So you're going to have to go Port here, Urban.
Okay, Port. I'm going to go with Zachy Butters, 142.
We changed the number at the last minute there. It is Zach Butters, and it is a 144. So gets the 1 point here. Now, DC, you've got the chance here to take the win, tie it up, or miss out and give Nathan a crack. Melbourne.
And DC, I want you to get this because then I can claim that it's biased and I got to go last and I would have won. But I don't know
Get a
the
better
answer
rank,
for who it's
Nathan.
coming. So therefore,
rank.
If we did this next week.
It could be a few players, but I'm going to go. He's definitely had some ceiling games this year. I'll go Cozzy. I'm not sure he's hit a 140. I'll go 139 for Cozzy.
Well, you've all got a strike. Nathan's got a crack at it. Not correct. It's not Gorn. It's not Cozzy, Nathan.
Everything inside of me is screaming Sparrow, and I shouldn't listen to that instinct. And can you tell me the score? No, that doesn't help.
No, because if you...
yeah, no, I get that. Got that.
now, actually,
everything's...
I've got...
Okay.
I'm going to have to apologise here. I've just fact-checked myself, which is always good to do. And as a matter of fact, Urban's won the quiz. It was Max Gorn.
Hey,
it's a really
there
fun
we
way
go.
to
Kissed.
build suspense and take
No,
it
no,
away.
no,
Would
no.
you like to guess who
It
was?
wasn't.
Who I
It
thought
wasn't.
was?
It wasn't guess that. It wasn't guess that. It was guess what you had written down, and that's what's important. Jack
What have I written
Steele,
down?
139.
Melksham.
I did have Jack Steele written down at 138.
That counts. That counts. That counts.
But I recalled that Max Gorn had a higher score. So apologies to anyone playing at home. Urban, well done. You haven't won a hat
Thank you.
just yet. But you have
Do I
won
get second?
the illustrious Jake's trivia. You tied for
My
second.
second
you tied
best
for
trivia
second.
person. Oh, that doesn't feel good.
It still counts. It still counts. A couple of very quick fun facts. Well done to you, fellas. The only players to score 160 and miss the list were Max Hall this weekend and Brodie Grundy. Only two players to have teammates score more than them. But most importantly, and I thought the most enjoyable list here, was the surprise top three candidates. So the guys who finished on the podium got themselves a medal for their club. Sam Berry with a 156, third behind Isaac Rankin and Jordan Dawson. Phoenix Gothard with a 130, the third highest score for any GWS player. But most importantly, and the only fact that anyone on this show cares about, Zeke Hewland, 146, the third best Gold Coast Suns scorer.
DC was right.
Absolutely incredible stuff.
The
That was
week
Jake's
after
trivia.
you brought it, before you brought him in, or the week before you brought him in.
That's not important.
Has he scored 146 in total since then?
Also not important.
Points chasing at its finest. Well done, fellas. Well done, Irvin. And hopefully those are playing along at home enjoyed that one as well. We do have two final questions to finish the show off. One is from Perennial Question Answer. I'm going to throw this one to you, Nathan, because it is Petrarca related. He said, I traded out Track in round 3 and never got him back in, but I'm still only ranked 25k. Am I Lewis Melican?
No, you're not. And it's because of the fact that you were scarred from Petrarca early on. If you hadn't started him and finished 25k, absolutely, give up the game. Awful. But if you did start him, then this entire season is completely defunct, null and void for you. Don't think about it at all. Enjoy the fact that next season you won't own it.
He'll be cheap.
What was that? Well,
Urban,
I can't wait to see.
Urban, bring him in this round. He'll get your hat.
Yeah.
He'll get your hat, Urban, I promise.
All right.
I can't wait for a Petrarca season-ending 150 just to throw the middle finger up at Nathan one last time. And the final question comes from Wayne DC. He said, any chance for the Wednesday pod we could get blind rankings of the preseason hot takes, both on the money and off the money? Wednesday this week, we depending on the news, I think that's going to come out of the next couple of days will depend where we go, because I think it is going to be a very straightforward week. Obviously, we will have our review show next week, which we can take as long as we like, because the only people listening to that are the true supporters of the Hat Chat podcast, of course, DC. But do you think we could sneak that in one way or the other?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great suggestion. So we'll take a little bit of prep because we'll need to go back and listen to how terrible some of our takes were at the start of the year. But yeah, we can definitely do that. I reckon it's probably more likely next week. But great idea. Thank you.
Awesome
I didn't
stuff.
catch all that question, but all I heard was, could we get blind? I was like, yes, we could get blind on Wednesday.
I think that there's every reason to and not to. Hump Day, after all, and in the final week of the fantasy year, it feels like a fantastic time to celebrate. Second only to Gather Round, of course, which will be coming up sooner rather than later, the way that this season's been traveling. But yes, we'll keep everyone tuned on the socials, depending on news, depending on availability for this Wednesday, and whether it is worthy us jumping on, and if there are any particular questions. But otherwise, of course, you can catch us on the socials. Urban, I'm assuming you're going to be humming around the socials this week, and it's going to be a big weekend of watching the footy at home to see if there's any chance you sneak your way in.
No, I've got to fly back to work. We'll see how I'm doing jury duty, all that. See how that goes. I could be locked away in a hotel on a big case. Look, it'll just be business as usual. No socials, just roll through this week and see how we go.
Will they find you where people expect to find Urban each and every time you join the show?
You'll find me doing the podcast there rounds. The greatest 252nd coach ever, as you've seen tonight. You'll catch me at the pub. You'll catch me getting my flag mantle excitement even more on. Yeah, you'll catch me around. But before I go, Jake, I just want to say, guys, another fantastic year. You step it up every year. So I won't speak to you again before the end of the season. But well done on another good one.
Rough.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. What is your bloody Twitter handle, though?
My Twitter handle? Urban the Garuda Great. No, Urban Garuda, at Urban Garuda on Twitter. I don't really use it anymore.
He doesn't need to, but next year when he slides his way into winning a hat, he's going to have a competing podcast, also named Hat Chat, for the hat that he's going to be proudly wearing in support of the pod.
No, it'll be Urban's Turban.
Yes. But no, look, I haven't been on socials this year and I've done pretty well, so that might stick next year. We'll see how we go.
You didn't talk about that earlier. Maybe there's something in it. But, mate, thank you very much for jumping on. Thank you very much for the kind words.
Thanks for having us.
We love having you on. Love having you here in Adelaide too. So we'll see if we don't catch you before then. I'm sure we'll have a fantastic time there. DCC, you're obviously waiting to see where you land in the Hat Chat ranks at the end of this week. So what's the plan for this weekend?
Oh, just hope that it's not as bad as it has been the last few weeks and pray that you guys don't fly past me by thousands of ranks. But that seems pretty likely. So you'll find me watching whatever sport I can that isn't AFL.
Good Lord.
I like that you made fun of... Yeah, I was just like you made fun of Urban about this.
It was dramatic pause, Jake. Dramatic pause. It's a podcast technique.
No, we don't do that here. Nathan, what about you, mate?
It's all right. DC, you can focus on AFLW, right? You surely must be winning that one as well compared to the three of us, right? You wouldn't be last in that one, would you?
I'm not. Look, I thought my team was okay. I'm actually fairly happy with it. It's just you guys also had very good rounds there. So just kissed all round. The irony of this is ridiculous.
You could find me at Obermullet and also creating draft versions of what we're going to name DC's ranks next year. Just while it probably won't happen, there's just like a small window where we've got that little bit of hope. So got to come up with something. I don't know if it's like pieces of awful fantasy coaches, caterpillars, calamities. I don't know. So we'll get something in there. We'll get something in there.
Pieces.
And at Obermullet, I'll get I'll get it in there twice.
With a T. I think there's a formal name for poo, not just Philippoo, that could also rhyme with Deeces. So we could go with that. I don't know that our listeners would want to be clarified in those ranks, but it could work. Could work. That's a big way for me to say.
Shit, that doesn't rhyme. Sorry, it makes sense.
Yeah, a weird way for me to then throw to myself, but of course, yes, you can find me at Dunkley's Donuts. Not using it, but that's where you'll find me. You can find us at Hat Chat AFL, and you can find our partners for this year at Peak Solutions and at Game Day Squad. Guys, that was a fun one. It's going to be weird next week, final one of the year, but it's been an absolute blast. Please get your questions in this time of year. It is just all about the fun. So if you've got anything funny you want to say, anything funny you want to add, please chuck it in. We may say it, we may just laugh at it in our own time, but either way, we'd appreciate it. So have a fantastic week. For those still in the grand finals, good luck this week. And for those like Urban vying for a hat, even more so. We can't wait to hear a few of our listeners have come away with the goods in 2026. But more about that in our final show next week. Until then, cheers.
Just bye.
Bye-bye.